We are live. Olá, sejam bem-vindos a uma conferência com várias ex-alunas de Erasmus de diferentes países. Hoje vamos discutir a identidade europeia. Inês, passo-te a palavra.
Hi, my name is Inês and I'm here with João and Catarina. She's not showing because she doesn't have camera. First of all, we want to thank the three of you for being here. It's really important for us to get a young perspective about Europe, especially because you're from three different countries, Turkey, Germany, and Lithuania. So the first question goes to Sevilay because she's from Turkey, a country that is not in the European Union. Do you still believe that one day your country will join the community? And what do you think would change if they did?
Do I need to first maybe tell my name or something? Okay.
No, I think you can start answering.
Okay. I don't think that Turkey will enter the European Union. And especially the latest occasions in Turkey. I think also on the Europe side, they wouldn't allow Turkey to enter. And what was the other question?
It was what would change if they did, but you just said they won't. So maybe I can ask you, would you like that your country would enter the community personally? Like your personal opinion?
Okay, yeah, I think it will be really good for me, at least, because so I could travel, I could go any country in the Europe, and I wouldn't need to get a visa, and I could probably work or study there more easily. On the side of my opinion is, I think I can say this.
Often people believe that some countries have more voice in Europe than others. Selina, as a German, do you believe that your country has more power than other smaller ones? We can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry. So I said, yeah, I definitely feel like there are these kind of big European countries that kind of have more power or maybe more impact at least, and are kind of the faces of the EU or like the representatives, so to say. But I don't think it makes a lot of sense because these big countries don't necessarily represent all of Europe. As European Union is so diverse, like there's such a huge range of countries, and the big ones such as Germany are just such a small part of it, I would say.
So on the other side, we have Greta, that is from Lithuania, a smaller country. Do you think that Lithuanians have less voice than citizens in the bigger countries?
I think definitely they have like a smaller voice probably, because like Selina said, I mean, there are bigger countries, and of course I think they make a bigger impact, and they actually, I think that all of the citizens of European Union, they tend to think that these countries such as Germany, France, and well, it was UK before Brexit, that they represent European Union. And we feel sometimes as we would be voiceless, I think. And I think that some countries, they wouldn't even know that we belong to European Union. Some, some countries, they would say that maybe we still belong to Soviet Union. Personally, I think that it's really important for us to be in European Union, and there are like certain benefits that we can enjoy, and it's good for our economy and stuff. But yes, as I said before, I think that sometimes we feel voiceless a little bit just because we're a minor country, not like a huge European power.
Although you are from different countries, the three of you have something in common. You all did Erasmus. Did Erasmus make you feel more European? This question is for the three of you. Sevilay, you can start.
I think with Erasmus, I understood. Maybe I also lived for a while in a European country, and this helped me to understood like uh, what kind of culture they have, because I think it's quite different than Turkey. I think I don't know if I can say uh, this as like Europe culture or something, but I have been in Lisbon, so I could only talk about my from my experience that um, it was different culture than I know I have in my country. And what was the question again? Did I answer it? Yeah.
If Erasmus may make you feel more European.
Okay. Uh, um, I think it made me understood the culture, but I don't feel like European, or I don't know maybe what is the meaning of being European. I don't know.
Selina, you can go next.
Um, I also don't know if Erasmus made me feel more European. I definitely feel European, but Erasmus especially showed me, I think, the diversity and how much it gives me to like be surrounded by people from different backgrounds. And even though it's maybe one Europe, it's so diverse. Like I said before, there's so many different countries, cultures, backgrounds, and just to kind of be part of this, that's definitely what Erasmus made me feel like, to belong there and to get an insight in all these other cultures, and yeah, see what it helps oneself as well to learn a lot about oneself and about all the other countries as well.
Greta, your turn.
It's my turn, right? Because I still cannot hear you, Ja. Um, so I wouldn't say that, after Erasmus, I felt like I belong to Europe much more, because I still have, hard times to figure out what does that mean to be European. I mean, I don't even like those kind of labels, because what kind of criteria gives you to understand that we are Europeans? Is it because we share, I don't know, maybe common values such as democracy, I don't know, freedom of speech? But then there are a lot of countries that are not European who have the same values. Then maybe it's just because we belong to, European Union. But still, I just don't like these kind of labels. But I think what Erasmus gave me is just a broad spectrum of, understanding of how different cultures and different countries works. And I understood that Europe is actually so diverse. So I wouldn't even feel a need to put this kind of label such as being European. It's just Europe as a continent, but I wouldn't associate it with being European or not. It just, we are in the same continent, and we have like really such a huge diversity in cultures, in religions, in everything. So I wouldn't just put labels. I think it's wrong to do that.
Now we would like to ask you, what was the thing you liked to do most while you were in Erasmus? Maybe Greta can start.
Yes, I mean, this experience was my first experience as an Erasmus student. And what I liked the most is that you can meet a lot of people who are with different cultural backgrounds, and you can discuss with them different kind of issues. And it's so important, and it's so interesting to see all of those diverse opinions about different kind of subjects related to politics, economy, I don't know, traveling, and stuff like that. And it was my first encounter with different culture as well. So it was so important for me to get to know Portugal as well. So I'd like to travel there. And I mean, I made a lot of friends, and such as Selina and Sevilay, for example. And it's so nice that we still keep in touch. And I think that friendship is like the most important thing for me. And this what Erasmus, this is why I appreciate Erasmus so much.
Selina, would you like to go next?
Yes. I think I definitely agree with what Greta said. First of all, then what was special for me about Erasmus is that I've been traveling before a bit, also in Europe, and got to know people from other countries as well. But the Erasmus was kind of the first time that the conversations got so much more in depth, like that you don't just talk about, hey, where are you from? Or cool, I've heard this and that stereotype about your country. Is that true? And then you learn maybe some basic vocabulary like saying hi and thank you. But Erasmus was getting so much more in detail about people's culture, and you, like Greta said, you get the chance to talk actually about politics and all kinds of stuff that kind of opened my eyes for many things that I wasn't really aware of, that you don't maybe get to hear through the media, and it's kind of just first-hand experience of someone coming from that country. I think that's what I liked the most, to have this exchange, really.
Now, Sevilay?
I also agree both Greta and Selina what they said. And Erasmus, I think, made me kind of different person, because before like Selina said, I talked with other people from different countries, but I didn't actually lived with them. For example, first time I came Lisbon, I lived for 4 months from different countries, with people that from different countries. For example, Ukrainian, the people from Poland, and we talked and we shared our experience, Erasmus experience together. And then also sometimes also we talked about like our country's politics. Maybe I wouldn't know if I wouldn't do Erasmus, because it's I mean, okay, I can read some news from the newspapers that how Europe is, or what Europe does in the parliament and stuff like that. But living in the first on the first hand, I think it's different, and I think it's nice to like try to understand other people and share the culture and understand their culture, and let the other people understand your culture too. I don't know, it was very good.
Okay, so I'm asking you, are Erasmus the only good thing about your European Union? If not, tell me what other things you consider good as well. Selina, you can start.
I don't think Erasmus is the only good thing about the European Union. I think the concept of the European Union per se is really good. The idea behind it, to have also, as Greta said before, like shared values, like democracy and human rights and all of that, that we kind of base our understanding of values on these things. And then I also think it's a great concept to implement certain laws or regulations on a wider level than just nationwide, even though that is really complicated, of course, because, like we said, the European Union is so diverse and there are so many different countries, and what might be easy to implement in a country as Germany might not be easy in a country as Lithuania, or the other way around. What might work easy in a small country might not work in a country like France or Germany. So I'm sure there are many things that don't work well, but the concept itself, I think I really like it.
Sevilay, you can answer now.
Okay. I don't know if this will be your answer for your question, but I can say that this was really interesting for me when I experienced for the first time traveling from Lisbon to Spain. That I didn't need to show my passport to anyone, or I really felt that there is no borders, like how I know from Turkey, the side of Turkey. Because here, if I want to go Europe, if I want to go to travel to another country, there is many things that I need to do. I need to have visa. I need to give to that state what they are asking me to travel there. And yeah, I can say that.
Greta, I hope you hear me. So, Ines, you can help me. I think Greta can't hear me.
Greta is saying, "Is your turn?"
Can you repeat the question because I cannot hear Joao at all?
Okay, so he asked if Erasmus are the only good thing about Europe, and if not, what are the other good factors about it?
No, I mean, I definitely don't think that it's the only good thing for Europe. Of course, the thing that you can, like just travel in all of those countries without visa and to stay there for a while, and because we don't have like tariffs on goods, so it's a really good thing for our country. But what Selina mentioned actually about shared values, of course, I like the concept as well. I mean, to be part of this community, it's such a beneficial thing for us, for especially for minor countries such as Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, I think, and other countries as well. But I think that the problem is also that use facing a little bit of I would say value crisis. I mean, what I mentioned with democracy and freedoms of speech. I mean, these concepts, they're, I mean, I don't know how to put it in words, but I think these concepts, at their purest, I don't know, it's just these concepts are so important, but they just don't work in all of the European countries. And that's where I see the problem. For example, with Hungary recently, I mean, actually, freedom of speech is just failing in this country. So I think that we have to rethink about all of these concepts in Europe and understand that we have to do something to stop this somehow, because the concepts that maybe in past they defined European Union, they just doesn't define it right now.
So now I have another question for the three of you. Maybe Sevilay can start answering. So, do you believe the European Union it's only an economic organization, or do you think there's something emotional that connects us all?
Yeah, I think beyond being economically united, I think there is maybe other values that Europe shares, such as, like Greta said earlier, freedom of speech, human rights, and human dignity, such as, and this kind of values, I think, makes Europe um, a community association that Europe stands for. I think when I hear Europe, I think about these values after the economic things.
Thank you. Greta, can you go next?
Yes, so I definitely agree with Sevilay. It's not only about economics and all of the benefits that European Union gives us, but also uh, to be in community, to belong to community, to have the same values. And actually, when we are, enforcing those values, it's so important right now when we face challenges from like these huge powers who are not. Who doesn't have these kind of concepts such as freedom of speech or democracy. So I think to belong to European Union is just about belonging to a certain community, and it's not only about economics but also about people, about being Europeans and being European Union citizens, which is actually, I think, quite important thing right now.
All right. Last but not least, Selina.
I definitely agree as well, like you said before, that we have these values that connect all of Europe. But I've been thinking that now that we have Brexit, it's definitely the economic things that are first. I don't think the UK is leaving Europe because they don't agree with the values anymore. It's definitely a lot about economics. So maybe often, or maybe too often, that's the first thing that politicians or everyone thinks about: economics and benefits and disadvantages for countries, and every country wants to be in a good spot to also get something out of Europe and from the European Union. But kind of these common values go a bit to the second place. What's sad?
Selina and Greta, I would like to ask you two now, where is for you, in your opinion, European identity? Start because Greta can't hear me.
So what European identity is?
Yeah, that's what he asked.
Well, I think it's similar to these values that we've been mentioning. Also, I think what Sevilay said about freedom of travel, that it's a really important part of European identity, because that kind of makes it easy for us to connect easily, because we can just reach each other in a very easy way. So I think for me, European identity is kind of young, progressive, and yeah, free. Like, that's the ideal of it. Of course, that's not always how it is in practice, but I think that's my ideal of the European identity, and that's what I think of when I say I feel European. Yeah.
Ines, please.
So the same question, right?
Yeah, it's to define European identity.
Yeah, so I think that I can speak on behalf of my country, and I think that for us, because we were occupied by Soviet Union for 70 years, and for those 70 years we were defined as Soviet, as someone who belonged to Soviet Union. So right now, when we gain our independence, and it's been already 30 years, it's so important for us to be Europeans, and that means for us to be a progressive country, to be a free country, to have freedom of speech. And I think those values really define European identity, and that's what is important for our citizens, especially not to be associated with Eastern Europe, not to be associated with Russians, but be associated with progress, which is Europe.
Sevilay, although your country is not in the European Union, do you still feel somehow a part of this community?
I think from my experience with Erasmus exchange, I felt for a little bit of time that how it would be for me to live in a European country, how the things are working there. So I experienced this, but maybe I can say that I share the idea of freedom of speech, human rights, and such as human dignity. But maybe my country sometimes doesn't share the same values as Europe. That's why I think Turkey is not in the European Union, and maybe it's not gonna get in any soon. Yeah, is the I answered the question right? Because I'm talking and then I don't know if I don't know because I feel like I don't have the answers. I don't know.
No, it's fine. You did answer. So I'm going to start asking the next question. Do you believe that there's some future in European Union, or do you believe that someday this community will end? Maybe Greta can start this one.
I hope not, actually. And I think it would be really damaging, experience if European Union would collapse sometime. So I don't know. I'm a little bit optimistic, but I think that we need to unite as Europeans more, and we have to solve issues with Brexit as well, because UK was such an important country for all of us, actually, and it was the main country, our backbone of Europe. So right now we have to redefine what, like, the leadership of Europe, I think, because recently I would say that we are in crisis with Brexit and with values, with freedom a little bit. So yeah, but I wouldn't say, and I wouldn't think that European Union sometimes would collapse. It would be a disaster, I think, for Europe, because it's really important for us to be community, to have the same values, and also because of economics. I don't really know how my country would survive without European Union.
Selina, can you go next, please?
I also hope that it's not gonna collapse, and I would also say that I'm optimistic that it won't. So I agree with what Greta said, that it's and how I said before as well, that it's a good idea and a good concept, and maybe there just need to be new ways to deal with this concept, or to put it into practice, that it works for all of the countries and that no one feels left behind. And maybe that even encourages some countries to stick with these values that are kind of have a tendency to move away from these, kind to make them stick with the European values. And then the economic benefits are kind of the reason for them to stay, but still they have to stick with these values then. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that it won't collapse soon.
Now, Sevilay.
I always think that I think after the Second World War, um, because of it was so devastating for the all Europe, and I feel like with the European Union, actually Europe rebuilt itself. Since I'm in Turkey and I actually didn't know any devastating um, results of the Second World War, because in my country it wasn't part of a Second World War, so actually we don't talk about much of this situation. But I hope also, I agree with Selina and Greta, this doesn't collapse, because I feel like the ideas and the countries are together with a concept of idea. And yeah, I think it's a good, yeah, good united Europe. Yeah.
To conclude, we have some more direct questions. First, who is the most important figure of European Union? You can answer. Greta, you can go first, please.
So, Greta, João is asking you to go first, and the question was, what is the most important European figure to you?
You mean like a leader or something?
Yeah, like that.
Mm, I think that like you probably wouldn't know him, but he is our representative of European Union, and his name is Arnoldas Pranckevičius, and I feel that this person does a lot for European Union, and he's like a bridge between European Union, all of the bureaucrats and the citizens. So I think for us he's a really important figure, but it's only for, I would say, Lithuanians more than European Union itself.
Selina, you can go. Yeah. Okay, Selina has some issues. Sevilay, you can answer, please. Who is for you the most important figure of European Union?
Okay. I don't have any person in my mind, but I can say that I believe more that since the European Union, I think, supports this, I believe more civil societies and the changes that civil societies does. I can tell that you also don't know about this, of course. There was a civil society in Turkey, community services, and I was there. I was there as a volunteer, and I know that Europe. I think they also um, get help from Europe, European Union, and I was there for as a human rights trainer. So to convey these ideas to other people and share thoughts with other people through the civil societies. I think this is the important figure, in my opinion. Yeah.
Selina, I think we can hear you now.
Cool. I also hear you again. Um, Actually, no concrete figure or person comes to my mind when you're asking about that for the European Union. And I think it's a nice thing that we don't have this, like, I don't know, like a constant president or one person, because that kind of means there's change and like countries are taking turns to be the, I don't know how to say, the ones managing it. So I think I like this idea that it's not one constant leader of the European Union there.
So my last question for you is, what is your favorite European Union moment? Greta, I think you hear me now? No? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Finally. My favorite European moment. I wouldn't say that I can define only one moment, but I don't know. I think that Europe is just such an important, you know, part of my life. And me as a citizen of Lithuania and also my family, we're huge travelers. So I was traveling throughout the Europe since I think I was, I don't know, 6 or 7. And I just love this idea of Europe that we can travel without visa and we're not restrained somehow. So we can live there for quite a period of time. So for me, just the whole concept of traveling, freedom of traveling and traveling without, those kind of obstacles such as visas is the most probably important moment of, me being an European and belonging to Europe, belonging to this European Union. Oh my God, such a difficult word.
You did well. Sevilay, please.
Okay. Can you repeat your question?
Yes. Where is for you the most important moment of European Union?
Okay. When I think also it comes my mind that the idea of not having the borders between countries and freedom of travel and freedom of that you can go in another country and work and you can go in another country and get education. Yeah, I think.
Selina, your favorite moment or the most important moment for you?
I also find it really hard to pick one specific moment, but I was also thinking of this like free travels for sure, but then as well to be in a group of people from different countries, all European, and having this feeling that we are sharing something. It's really hard to put into words, but maybe it's these values that we've been talking about. Also, maybe it's the diversity itself. I think that's the most important for me. But having this feeling to have something that connects us, and yeah, this is just really cool feeling. Just this diversity and still feeling connected.
So this was supposed to be our last question, but Katerina, who is in the backstage because she doesn't have video, asked me to ask you, what are you doing right now in your lives? If you're still studying, if you're working, I don't know. You tell me. Sevilay, you can go first.
I still didn't finish my university. Actually, I needed to finish last June, but now it's little bit longer for now. But I'm gonna finish in January. And at the same moment, I'm working in a news website, and I'm writing some. I'm writing about things that interests me. For example, the last thing that I write, it was about again with a civil society NGO member. I did interviews. Yeah, I'm creating a content for the news website, and I'm still studying. I hopefully will be graduate at January.
Selina, can you go next?
Yes, I just started a master's degree this September in Denmark, and I think that Erasmus in Lisbon was very much connected to this decision because, as I said before, I just realized how much I enjoy being with people from different backgrounds and how much it gives to me and how much I learn from it. So the program that I'm doing now is Erasmus Mundus program, so it's also connected to the Erasmus. But it's not only people from Europe, but from all over the world. So we are, I think, 30 nationalities in my program. And yeah, it's really nice and diverse. And it's also still connected to journalism, like my bachelor was as well.
And now, Greta?
Yeah, so unlike Selina, I also started master, but my master is nothing actually related with journalism. I started a master in international relations and diplomacy, and I'm doing it in Lithuania. Besides, I'm working as a freelance journalist. So time by time, I would write some articles related to projects, environment, social problems, and stuff. And I'm trying to survive this whole period of coronavirus.
Katerina also wants to know if you could change something in the European Union, what would you like to change? Maybe Selina can go.
It's a really hard question. I think if there would be one correct answer to this and someone would know it, then all the problems would be solved, probably. I don't know, maybe connected to what I said before, to kind of like, it's great that we have this diversity, but to equal the, how to say, the borders, or not borders as in borders between countries, but more like the differences to, like, it's so hard to implement something that works for all of the countries just because they are so different. So to make it easier to have something work, like sometimes it's so easy to say, why isn't this a European law? This would help, I don't know, for example, the environment. Just let's implement this for all of Europe, but it just doesn't work so easily in practice. So if that could work somehow, don't have a solution for that for small countries, maybe less developed countries, as well as bigger countries and more developed countries, kind of to equalize the approach to it a bit, but it's hard to do.
Sevilay, can you go next?
Okay. It's also really hard to answer the question. I don't know. I think I don't know the answer.
Greta, you can go now.
Yeah, I think it's hard to think of only one thing, but what really comes to my mind is, like, I don't know, the whole bureaucratization and the process of applying sanctions to other countries. So I'm talking specifically, for example, with Belarus and the situation in there. And I remember when we had to vote for whether we are for or against European Union sanctions for Belarus. There was one country, I think it was Cyprus, who was against it because for personal actually reasons. And for me, it's unreasonable because the situation at that time was already so horrible. And I just don't like this whole system and this whole idea of, all countries or none of them. So we have to somehow to rethink this concept in those kind of situations when we have, grave human rights problems in our country. So I think that would be one of the main things I would like to somehow to rethink and to think of somehow new concepts. Yeah.
Okay, so it's really the last question now. What's the best advice you can give to someone who's thinking about doing Erasmus? Selina, you can go.
Oh, wow. I think also hard to answer, but doing Erasmus is already the best step, I think, to start with, so then not as much can go wrong afterwards. I don't know, make the most of it. It sounds really cheesy, but like just live it to the fullest. Maybe at some points also don't worry too much about the academic part of it, because definitely you also have a great chance to learn academically a lot in your Erasmus just by having the perspective of a different education system and all of that. But just go meet as many people as you can. Don't stick with the people from your own country, and use the chance to speak English, maybe learn different languages, and surround yourself by as many different nationalities as possible.
Sevilay, can you go now, please?
I agree with Selina. I think not being only with a group of people that speaks the same language with you, and I think it's the best thing to do in Erasmus. Meet as much as possible with new people from and it comes from different backgrounds, comes from different countries. And also maybe they can try to go and do Erasmus with better computers, and if it's possible, if I talk as like journalist student, if they can go with their cameras, it will be really good, because on that time that I was doing Erasmus, I didn't have proper computer or camera. Yeah.
And finally, Greta.
Yeah, from me, it would be that you should actually be really open to all of the countries, to all of the people, to cultures, and society you live in. And I think it's so important to encounter with as many diverse people as possible, and to get to know them, to get to know, what are they thinking about, different kind of, I don't know, uh, problems, topics, and these kind of things. So for me, what was the most important thing, and what I would recommend, to be actually open to everything, to this whole experience. And please don't stick with people only from your country. It's a really, like, the worst thing ever, and it's the worst mistake you can actually make in Erasmus.
So thank you very much for helping us, Selina, Greta, and Sevilay. It was amazing to see you again. There, you gave us a young and diverse perspective of what Europe is today. I hope you will come to Portugal in the future. And thank you again.